Hello.
So, we're here in Birmingham looking at the Pennsylvanian Pottsville Formation, which is pretty much a 300-ish million year old formation of sandstones and shale. That's pretty cool. We're in the Valley and Ridge, so this stuff got folded and deformed during the Allegheny orogeny. And we found some other cool stuff, so let's show you. This stuff was probably being deposited in kind of a deltaic environment. So you think like Mississippi Delta or the Amazon Delta, something like that, where you're having lots of sand and clay, you know, the sea level's rising and falling constantly throughout, you know, millions of years. And so then you have things like trees and whatnot, but also plant material being deposited as well. It gets compacted and you get coal, but sometimes, you know, something like that maybe get preserved. You get silica moving through there and it'll preserve that, so that's pretty cool. So here we actually have a petrified, or I guess fossilized piece of an old tree, I suppose. There's a pin there for scale, so you can actually see the original structure of the wood. And then we have another one up in here. Alright, so that might be a branch or a log or something similar. And then we also have one right there. So that's pretty neat. I didn't know these were actually in this formation. Pretty cool. So what have you found here, Brian?
A thin seam of coalified cycad.
Neat. What's a cycad?
Sort of like conifer.
Okay, so again we have another seam of coal here. You can see it's kind of blocky and whatnot. Pretty neat. No way!
The history of this general area, in the Liberty Park and surrounding area, there's a family called the Drummonds, and they had a Drummond coal company. And this whole area was strip mine and maybe some underground mine back in the day.
Yeah.
And the Drummonds, you know, kept this land and then later developed it with, you know, $1 million houses.
Woo!
So they made their money twice.
Yeah, you could say that.
Pretty good.
So it looks here like there may have been a landslide at some point. See where it's kind of the material's missing, and then we have a bunch of jumbled boulders and whatnot. Whew. Probably not too recent though, I would hope. But this is exactly the kind of thing that you would want to stabilize for. So this is what civil engineers and geologists work on to prevent, instead of just kind of leaving it to nature. So notice how the rock is bent in here. You come up along there, you see this bending up that way, and then these are bending here. So this is actually a fault. So we have kind of a movement like this. This piece is thrusting up over top of that one. Pretty neat. So we just walked from down there, where we had that fold, and some of the beds were eventually overturned. But now, Evan has found some new evidence. Show us, Evan. What'd you find?
Well, here are some, look like maybe wave ripples. We'd have to see a cross-section of them, but it looks like there's still fossil material in here.
Yep, but these ripples on the surface like that are showing us that this isn't overturned. So likely the stuff back behind us thrust over top of this, and this stayed sort of horizontal. And so these look like fairly symmetrical ripples, which should indicate that they were wave action moving back and forth as opposed to one direction. So this is probably something kind of like a tidal area. Pretty cool. Notice that we have these beds dipping this way, and then some of them dipping this way, and some of them are flat. This is called cross stratification. So what we have is a flow direction in this direction. Think of a dune, you know. So it was flowing this way at one point, but then notice it was flowing that way at one point. Okay, so I mentioned earlier with those other ripples, right, that they were symmetrical. Well, by putting this pin in the direction of flow, notice that we have these ripple marks, and you can see the kind of shadow here is nice. So it's steeper on this end than it is on this end. So as the water flows, it deposits the sand, and it'll flow over itself. Just kind of a dune, but they're making kind of a this shape, right? So now we know the flow was going that way. So if we look over here, notice that these are fairly symmetrical, right? So that's a back and forth motion, whereas we have a unidirectional flow versus a bidirectional flow. So that's kind of cool. So clearly, something changed in this environment over time.
Alright, so it looks like we've got some biogenic structures here. I'm not sure what would have formed them, but you can still see some maybe wave ripples in here. It looks like some little channels have been cut by something.
Right, so biogenic is what?
Biogenic is some sea critter long ago created these.
Right, so
as they were looking for food or doing something.
Exactly, so bioturbation, they disturb the sediment, and they make these little patterns like that. And you got, I don't know, that might be from a, I don't know, left over from some kind of plant.
Yeah, could be.
Alright, Evan, we're sitting on this rather precarious slope here, but what do we find?
We found a small seam of some really crappy coal. I suppose you might call it bituminous, which is, you know, low grade of coal, if it's even bituminous.
Yeah.
It might be somewhere in the lignite.
It probably is somewhere in between there.
Yeah.
Do you think we could burn some of it?
We could probably burn some of it as soon as it dries out. Which it might dry out in the fire. So.
Yeah, fire will do that, won't it?
We'll do it. Yeah,
we could try that. Neat. So look what we found here. This is a better spot than we were in before. We found actual coal. So take a look at that. Shiny, black coal. And that seam kind of continues on up that way. So you see? Kind of darker band. Neat. See? All that black, that's coal. Coal.